seems to be full up and overflowing. And when I've said to you, I've taken rubbish home before now because you couldn't get it in there. But I think that we need one kind of in this area because people playing on the mugger don't want to walk over there. And obviously now we've got the shop there. I don't know what the situation is with the bin by the shop or the front of the shop. But then we don't want wasps going around it or mice or rats or anything like that.
So it's in front of the parish hall.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
Is that
mainly relocating, mightn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Would that be better to relocate it?
yeah.
Well, if you think about the users of it, they're not going to come past Parish Hall. They're going to go into the shop,
Yeah.
either get in their cars or walk up the knoll. So it's unlikely they'll come back this way.
Try for a recycling.
Yeah, recite that bin.
Just going to plug my laptop in.
Yeah.
I don't want to delay it, but is it worth looking at that at the same time as we're looking about where we're putting the benches?
Mm.
We're going to review that.
Probably
I think the weather's not going to.
do the whole do the whole thing in one go.
Okay.
Mm.
So we can put that down that we're due to review the installation of the benches on that area in front of the shop at that point, work out where we resite. So probably,
Feng shui it.
yes. Okay. Okay, was that the...
That was the extent of Colin, Jonathan. Car park area was also tidy on inspection and the toilet block was clean on every time he inspected it, so that's good news.
Okay.
I suppose I would say about the tree. Yes, there's the other tree that's unsafe next to the tree that fell because it broke the top out and went in the wind, all its root mass moved. So I said to Bob, I think Jason's going to take it out. He's happy to take it out for the wood. So
I'm always happy that we get that done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is the tree in the centre green?
do you know where the other tree fell down?
Yes.
Next to it.
Oh, okay.
Between Mr. Slocum's and where the tree fell down.
Okay.
So
I must admit, David and Jason were very swift to
Yes.
do
No.
it.
So yes, I think we'll give our thanks to David and pass on to Jason because that was dealt with
Yeah.
very quickly.
So that's,
I'll put a fence rail back when we've had the other one out as well, because then it'll be right.
Sorry.
Sorry, talking about trees then, I've forgotten that. On the Windy Ridge path, which is Mr. and Mrs. Allsop's path really, there is a tree that's down across partly across the path, which could do with sawing up and making path easier. Don't know if they could be asked whether they could.
we asked them when
When we
we
mentioned
yeah,
the
that's
other
it.
thing.
Please.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Starting on the group haven't met. Building working group. No. Policy introduction and updates.
Nothing this month.
Okay. A quick update on one or two other things from Somerset. Just to let you know that this January, Somerset has started going out and talking to landowners, calling on what's called a call for sites for the new local plan across Somerset. So in fact, asking any landowners if they've got any land they'd like to build on or put houses on, economic development stuff. So that will be coming out to landowners across the county. So following that, there will be obviously public consultation and eventually there will be a Somerset-wide local plan that will replace the current Sedgemoor local plan in this area. There's a fostering campaign again being run by the county because we are very short of foster carers. Currently, you may have seen that there's actually a TV advert that's on ITV and Sky, which Somerset have put out there. It's obviously better for the kids themselves, but also financially for the council, it makes a massive difference if kids are fostered rather than going into to institutional care. So that's something they're working on. Anyone who may be going into Bridgewater and Eastover area, you'll remember the government gave about £20 million to Bridgewater for one of these levelling up schemes. The plan was Eastover was going to be made one way in the short term while the work was being done. Unfortunately, they found all the statutory undertakers, bits and pieces under the road aren't where they thought they were, which sounds familiar to some of the jobs that we've had around here. So now the road's got to be completely closed. So obviously the Eastover traders are less than impressed, and there will be a lot of congestion around that area. So it's something to just bear in mind if you do go into to Bridgewater.
Can you tell me which is Eastover?
So Eastover is if you come down the high street in the pedestrian area, you then cross over the bridge,
Yes.
and that road that goes from there down to where the new hotel was built.
Oh yes,
that's
okay.
Eastover.
Oh right, thank you.
Also, you will probably have something, I think, being potentially circulated by the clerk, if it hasn't already happened. The Boundary Commission, you remember I've mentioned to you, are going to be looking at the wards within Somerset Council. It looks like there is now an agreement that the number of councillors will reduce from 110 to 96. They're also putting together an initial plan from Somerset as to which parishes will go in which wards. The hope is to go back to single-member wards rather than multi-member wards. The current proposal that is likely to be on the table, subject to it going to a committee next week at Somerset, is that in this particular area, the Somerset seat will follow the same boundaries as the new parish. So it will be Brent Knoll, East Brent, Lyncham, Barrow and Breen. The other bits that are currently in my patch, which is the areas of, where are we talking about, Badgeworth, Weir, Chapel Allerton and Compton Bishop, they will be moving to go with Axbridge and Mark to form another seat. And the bits of Burnham Without, which is Edithmead, Watchfield, and the bits, the built-up bits on the edge of Burnham, they're going in with East Huntsville and a lump of Burnham and Highbridge. So that's the initial proposals. That will then go to the Boundary Commission. They'll look at it and they'll come up with their own plan, which may or may not reflect what Somerset came up with in the first place. And in the summer of this year, that will then come out for public consultation, so that the idea is that the new boundaries will be in place before the next set of elections in 2027, which is the same time as we have our parish elections. On the money front at county, we had a scrutiny meeting the day before yesterday. The budget this year, we're currently within budget, but that is based, obviously, as I've mentioned to you before, on us planning to use £38 million of reserves and selling off assets to the tune of about 40 million and using the capital receipts. The plan at the moment is instead of using £38 million worth of reserves, we're only going to have to use 30 million of reserves. So it's within the budget that we've set, but of course it's not as sustainable going forward. The new structure in terms of staffing should be in place from the 1st of April, but the redundancies are still being talked through at the moment. So that will have an impact, but it still won't solve the issues at that stage. And currently the government still hasn't confirmed that we can use the capital receipts for holding up our budget. They've sort of given a nod and a wink saying they should be doing it, and we expected to have it when the budget was being set earlier in the year. It's still not come through. If they come through and say we can't, then we hit the section 114 notice immediately, because we're banking on the fact of using that money.
And is that the decision of previous government or current
So
government?
the previous government had discussions saying, yes, we're minded to allow you to do it. But it's now for the new government to decide whether they're prepared to allow it to carry on. So that's the sort of current place at Somerset. Any comments or questions?
Nothing for a meeting.
In which case, that brings us on to Owen and the financial report.
Now, there's obviously statutory payments. The first one, these were approved in March of last year, and there's no change there. That's all as planned and as approved. So I just need you to confirm that you're happy to carry with
Can I
that.
just ask one question on that? Does that now include the regular payment that we make for the toilet block?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. The standing order that we've got for the toilet block, of course, is a new standing order, so it wasn't approved last year. So we paid it in December, and obviously we shall review it again in March when it comes up for the statutory payments again.
Okay.
So 299 off pat now, £299 a month for that. So yeah.
Dave, you'll have to.
Yeah, I was thinking of proposed
Okay. all in favour that we do those payments?
Okay.
That's
Now,
unanimous.
variable payments, there's a few there. We've got the office expenses and allowances for the October to December period, 392. A little bit higher because mileage was a bit higher this time because the number of visits I had to make going to the shop and meetings and those sort of things. So a little bit higher than last year, not much, about £20 I think over the last year. But that hopefully will start to show a shortfall this year because there won't be quite so many shop meetings probably. So that's 392 there. Steep pin, footpath maintenance, handrail, 888, and the installed gates to the car park at Hill Lane. Obviously, both of those include VAT, so that's obviously reclaimable. Holly and Steer, which is the final build legal costs, 3025, which is in line with what they set as their parameters when we started. And then we had this additional fee, 993, which was for the deed of variation to change the use of the building to a shop. We paid £1,000, of course, to the county for doing their work. I've got to check with Charles Fleming that the £1,000 was actually utilised with the county and that he can show us an invoice from the county for that cost. Because if there wasn't, then there's a bit of a refund, which I would have thought. There's an outstanding training invoice. I don't quite know where this one got lost in the ether, but when Aid did a playground inspection online thing about a year ago, for some reason we never paid the invoice. So that's a self one actually. And then Decision Power, which is our website manager, £630, that's their usual, which again has got reclaimable VAT contained within it as well.
That's what they're annual fee for maintenance.
Yeah, that's maintenance of the website, and there's one or two domain things. So they're the variable payments.
It's just a quick question, but the Holly and Steer fees, that's not generally within our budget, as it were. Are those costs set aside for somewhere?
Well, they're in the shop. They were in the shop building budget, of course.
Right.
And in a minute, I'll take you through what the shop building budget looks like at the end of the time, including those fees.
Okay.
So yes, it was definitely included.
Thank you.
The problem I've had now is I've had to merge two budgets, the build budget and the normal budget. I've had to merge them together because when it comes to the auditor in March, they won't accept two lots of budget, two lots of finance. So I spent the last few weeks trying to get them merged together, so it makes it easier reading, which I'll demonstrate in a few moments.
Okay.
But yeah.
Is there a proposal that we pay these? Charlie, thank you.
Yes.
Second Amanda. All those in favour, please show.
Thank you very much. Just in terms of ongoing matters on finance, the build budget actually makes, I think, some very good reading, actually, because it shows that we work within our budgets. If you just pass them in, Jane. And shows that I think at the end of the day we've got a small deficit of £1,000. What do you think? We started off with a budget of 270. It's a pretty close run thing, really.
So that deficit is effectively that 900 and whatever for the change of use thing.
You could say that.
Swings and roundabouts.
You could say that.
Have we reclaimed all the
All the VAT has come back.
Yay!
Every single penny. Which delights me because that was my biggest worry at the start of the year, was whether we're going to get all this VAT back within the prescribed period. And we did have one little hiccup halfway through the year when they queried these big amounts that I was claiming and wanted to know a bit more about exactly what we were doing in Brent Knoll. And I did endeavour to explain to them the issue, and they seemed satisfied with my explanation. So if you look at the income, all the income that we received during the whole project, we had obviously the loan was income effectively, the Section 14 credits from the shop, the VAT reclaims, we had door closures credit because what happened was the shop put auto doors in and gave us gave a donation towards that. Private donation for external electricity supply, and then obviously we had the BKN donation to the telephone kiosk. All of that totaled up at 240,000. And then our expenditure costs were obviously the building contract being the large one, the VAT on the contract, the toilet hire, the kiosk transfer, the electrical work for the outside supplier switching, Paul Martin's project management fee, the legal fees of Holly and Steer, and our financial consultants, and all that came to 292,000.
Not really necessarily appropriate to the final budgets, but just because you mentioned electrical, when I walked past the shop before Christmas, the kind of the electrical unit has a wire coming out of it, and the electrical unit kind of shut over the top of it. And to me, it looks like they've not cut a hole in the box. So can we just check
I
that?
think that's just the lights on the,
Is that the Christmas tree?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's just it, so it clips down onto it and locks it
Right,
shut.
okay.
But the wire does come out
Yeah, it
through.
just kind of, it looks like, you know, someone had shut a cable in, and it's like, that's not a permanent thing, is
No.
it? So
That's the Christmas lights.
right, okay.
If you were to look at these, the income and expenditure, you'd say, well, okay, we've got 214, but we spent 292 out. So we've had to take account of the reserves that we've allocated to it, because if we hadn't had the reserves, the numbers wouldn't have balanced. So we had still funding of 36,000. We had an unused PWLB reserve from the previous year of 11,646, and then the current year allocated shop budget, which we put into our normal budget. And so all of that totaled 50,000. So